thank you very much for having us, the Band Entretê Media Group. I mean, it's an honor for us to speak to you. Actually, we got to start from the beginning and looking towards the end. I mean, no doubt that Breaking Bad is going to be considered forever like a game changer, and it was indeed. But the first question is, was it like conceived like a game changer, or did you realize on the process of doing it like, hey, this is perhaps not just another series? I'm curious about, did you just want to try a good story and then it became this amazing game changer series? How did it happen?
That's a great question, Zeca, and thank you for having me, and hello to all our wonderful fans in Brazil, and I'm really happy to be here. You know, if I thought we were doing something special back in those early days when I first created Breaking Bad, I would have been so petrified, so scared and intimidated that I don't think I would have. You just want to tell a good story. I think you said it yourself. You want to set out to tell a good story, and then the chips fall where they may, as we say. What happens is, que sera, sera. What is what happens.
Right.
And I wasn't trying to break new ground. I think I was just trying to tell an interesting story. But the one thing I did want to do different is I wanted to tell a very serialized story. Back in American television 15 years ago, everything was very episodic. You would watch an episode of, say, The X-Files that I used to work on, and one week some things would happen, and then the next episode you'd make no reference to those things that happened the week before. I wanted to do something very serialized, but I did not, in my wildest dreams, think that Breaking Bad would turn out to be the international hit that it became. I just feel like I won the lottery. I feel like I got very lucky.
Still, I'm sure you were aware that you were pushing some envelopes there, because, I mean, whenever you're doing something new, I think networks or even streaming groups, they are kind of conservative. Oh, no, let's not go into that. Let's try this more traditional approach. So how was your approach to that? I mean, did you just don't listen to them? Or you try to make up, saying, no, this is going to be a very conventional series, but look at this episode. Take a look at this character here. So how do you trick networks and streaming service into doing something that is not what they are expecting?
Boy, that is the $1 million question. How to trick people into saying yes to your crazy ideas. I wish I had a great answer for you. We just, so much of this business, I hate to say it, everybody says, what's the secret? What's the secret to
right.
The secret is just what you would expect it to be. There's not much of a secret. The secret is you do good work, you try to come up with something a little bit different, but perhaps, as you said, not wildly different. And then you hope for good luck. And in our case, I had the courage of my ignorance. I didn't realize how different Breaking Bad was. I thought to myself, by the way, Breaking Bad, if I'd gone around pitching Breaking Bad 15 years ago in Hollywood without the existence of The Sopranos and of the wonderful show The Shield, there were two very wonderful, very excellent American TV shows. Obviously, everyone knows The Sopranos. Hopefully, folks in Brazil got to see The Shield as well. But those were the great show. Those were two shows that had very anti-hero protagonists. The main character was very much, if not a villain, then very much an anti-hero.
Right.
And if those are the shows I would love to ask your question about. I would love to say to David Chase, for instance, how did you get The Sopranos going? But it's because I think that one came first. That one must have been a tough sell. But I figured we have these two shows. They were big hits in America. They were great shows. I figured I wasn't doing anything that wildly different. But at the end of the day, most people said no to Breaking Bad. They said, we're not going to do this. Most of the companies, the networks rather, that we pitched to, they all said no, except for one, except for the AMC network. And I will be eternally grateful to them. And then they made a deal with Netflix. And Netflix, just about the time we were starting Breaking Bad, Netflix began its streaming service.
Right.
And the rest, as they say, is history. We got very lucky with the timing. You can't ever discount luck in this business.
This was another question. I wonder how did you feel about streaming at that time? Did you think, I mean, be completely honest, that was a good idea? Would it like break even in streaming? What were your feelings about streaming back then?
I am not being falsely modest when I say I really didn't know what was going on. I really had the courage of my ignorance, to repeat that phrase. I was so ignorant. I was the last one to understand what streaming was. I didn't have Netflix existed before then, as we recall. It existed. You would get on the computer and you would say, I want to see The Shawshank Redemption, and they'd send you a DVD in the mail.
Hey, yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
Yeah, that was their system, and that's all I understood, and I didn't even have it. And then they said, we're doing streaming, and I said, okay, what does that mean? And we were already streaming Breaking Bad before anyone ever fully explained to me what streaming was, and I didn't have it myself. I only got Netflix not that many years ago. So and when they said streaming is good because it's another, the thing I understood was they said it's another outlet for people to see the series, not just on the AMC network, but there's a whole other outlet, and guess what? People around the world can see it. And I said, that sounds good, but I didn't understand that it meant you could watch episode after episode, one right after the other, like eating potato chips. And I didn't dislike it. I didn't have an opinion at all about it.
Again, it is a wonderful story, a brilliantly conceived narrative, but you paid a lot of attention to text, and I'm a writer, and so are you. And we know usually. And you mentioned The Shield and also Sopranos, which were series that again, put a lot of attention into dialogues, into text, into material. So was this one of your concerns? I mean, we have to write stuff that people can understand and really listen to the characters. Did you think about that? Was it part of the project?
You know, it's interesting. Dialogue, text, is very important. As you and I both know, as all writers know, that's very important that the words coming out of the characters' mouths, that's the dialogue that you write as a writer. We all know that's very important, but you know, my personal belief is that writers tend to give it too much importance. To me, the most important, think about this, and also this has the added benefit of transcending different languages, English, Portuguese, and so on, when you tell a story visually. And to me, the exciting thing about being a writer is the spaces between the dialogue. To me, that's the writing, that's the storytelling, and that's the stuff, it doesn't matter what language you speak, because in real life, no matter what language we speak, English, Portuguese, whatever, human beings very often say the opposite of what they mean. And sometimes they don't say at all what they're thinking. And to me, the dialogue is fun to write. It's fun to come up with dialogue that is interesting, and that people want to quote later. But to me, that's the cherry on top of the sundae, on the ice cream sundae. That's the cherry on top. Yeah. That's the dessert. The entree of the meal is the scene, what we call the scene description. Saying to the actor, this is what Walt walks into his bedroom and his wife is asleep, and all that stuff that describes what's going on. It's not dialogue. To me, that's the real script. Let's
not forget that you did a whole episode without dialogues. Let's mention the Fly episode, right? Which is exactly right. It's just a big in between, isn't it? It's a masterpiece indeed. And then if you think about the characters, I mean, Walter White was one of the strongest in history television indeed, but he also did some very strong support characters. And I think Breaking Bad has a perfect balance. You see, it's like I put it here in my page for questions. It's like a concerto, right? You have the piano, but you have everything working together, and then you hear the fagotti, the oboe, and it's like, oh yeah, that sounds perfectly well. Again, $1 million question, another one. But you did that instinctively, or were there reviews that, oh, perhaps, remember his wife? We don't show her for 2 episodes. Where is she? How do you construct that perfect harmony between characters?
You got great questions. That's another great question. The best answer to that is hire good actors. And I'll give you a great answer to your question. The perfect answer to your question is, I didn't know what an ensemble we would have. You always endeavor to hire good actors, but I didn't know just how good the actors we hired were going to be. We had 2 wonderful, at the time, 2 casting people. Now there's 3, but a woman named Sharon B. Alley and Sherry Thomas, and then their coworker Russell. I'm blanking his last name now. They found, these wonderful casting people found such good actors. And here's my great example to answer your question. Jesse Pinkman, Walt's partner, I intended for him to die at the end of our first series, our first season of Breaking Bad, because I thought he's probably not going to be that important a character. The actor was so good. Aaron Paul, the actor who plays the part, so good and so watchable and so charismatic that I very quickly said to the writers, we're not going to kill him off. He's too good. He's too good to kill off. So I think, Zeca, I think that's the best answer to your question, in that you tell the best story you can tell. You always hire the best actors you can afford.
Sure.
And then there's a little bit of luck or not, but in our case, a great deal of luck. Again, I feel like I won the lottery, but you have these great actors, and then you want to write good stuff for them. You want to service them. You want to do well by them. You want to treat them right. And that's it. It kind of grows organically from there. It becomes what it becomes.
Well, we still have like 5 minutes left, and I want to ask you about spin-offs, because you did a wonderful spin-off, and this is it's a very challenging thing. You see, you have like, I don't know, Game of Thrones, or you have Mary Tyler Moore, and they try to do spin-offs of Mary Tyler Moore, everything. Not all of them succeed very well. I mean, this is television, we know about that. But again, did you, in the process of doing Breaking Bad, you see, well, Saul is such a character. Was there like a seed for a spin-off while you were making, or it was totally an afterthought?
You know, it started as a joke, and one of our crew people, this was only about the 2nd or 3rd time that Saul Goodman appeared on Breaking Bad, and one of the crew people said, you know the scene you need to do when we do the Saul Goodman spin-off, and everybody laughed because it was a joke. But people kept making this joke. And Peter Gould, who is the writer who created the character, he's one of the wonderful writers of Breaking Bad, and he wrote the first episode in which Saul Goodman ever appeared. And he's a wonderful writer, wonderful producer, wonderful director. And when Breaking Bad ended, I said to Peter, everybody kept making that joke about Saul Goodman, about him having a spinoff. What do you think? And he said, I don't know. What do you think? And we kind of talked about it for a while, and then we said, "What the heck? Let's go ahead. Let's go ahead and let's see what we can see." It's interesting. I'm not sure what my reasons were for wanting to do it, except they were probably selfish, to be honest. It wasn't about money for me, but it was. I mean, I love money. It was great to get paid for it, but the real reason I think I wanted to do it, just speaking for myself, is that I loved the crew on Breaking Bad. I love the experience. I love shooting the show in Albuquerque, New Mexico, where we shot both series. And I thought to myself, we have to end Breaking Bad, because if we go too long, we'll mess it up. But what if we can kind of sort of keep it going with this spin-off series? Because selfishly, I want to keep working with all these wonderful people. Sure. And minus Bryan Cranston and Aaron Paul. Unfortunately, they weren't front and center of the spinoff. A lot of the actors weren't, like the wonderful Anna Gunn, who played Skyler, and Dean Norris and Betsy Brand and R.J. Mitty. I knew we'd have to say goodbye to them, at least temporarily. But I said we could keep the crew working. So how about we try to do this? So that was the selfish reason. And there was danger involved because one of my favorite TV shows ever is the TV show MASH. about the war, the surgical hospital in Korea. Wonderful, wonderful show. I'm sure folks have seen it all around the world. What people don't remember, there was a spinoff called Aftermath, and it took place back in America. It lasted one season, and it took place in a hospital back in the United States after the Korean War. And I watched it. It was really not bad. It was not a bad show, but somehow it just didn't.
It didn't catch.
Yeah, it didn't catch. So much, there's that luck, the word luck again, but it didn't catch. But I thought, well, we could be Aftermath, but what the heck? Let's give it a try.
Everybody's very happy that you gave it a try. Very final question, and it's about like the duration of a series or a story. You mentioned something about, well, should it push along with Breaking Bad? How do you say, well, this is a four season series, 5 season series, because there are cases like, let's say, Lost, that obviously stretch itself too long. And then there are things like Fleabag. It's just 2 seasons. It's like amazingly good. I mean, you shouldn't go one episode more than that than it exists. So when you are creating something like that, how do you measure the span of it?
You ask a lot of tough questions. There's no good answer to that. It is a real issue, and it's something you think about constantly, and your thoughts on it change. Like on Breaking Bad, when I first pitched it, I said it could maybe be 2 seasons, maybe 3 seasons. Mm-hmm. And then as it went, we thought, no, we could probably do a couple more. 4 seasons, 5 seasons. We weren't sure. You're always asking yourself that question. But our mortal fear, speaking for myself, my mortal fear on Breaking Bad, once it became very popular, once it would win Emmys and whatnot, once that happened, I said to myself, we can't go too long. I said the thing that's opposite of what you would think. You would think, oh, let's go forever. But I said, I've seen too many shows, I've enjoyed too many shows that started off great and then they kind of went downhill. I don't want to do that. I guess the short answer is it's better to end too early. Like Fleabag, it's better to end too early than risk ending too late. And that's the best answer. And then you just give it your best guess. You say to yourselves, all the writers in the room, it wasn't ever just me. I had wonderful, wonderful writers. And we'd sit around and I would say, all right, for the next hour, let's talk about how many more episodes do we think we have left? We did that a lot. We would do that every week or so. And we would continually ask ourselves the question, how many more episodes do we have before we start treading water, before things start to get boring and uninteresting? Very good. You just come up with the best answer you can come up with. And probably at the end of the day, we could have had 1 or 2 less. We could have had 1 or 2 more. No one will ever know, but right. You sort of make the best guess you can make.
Well, I said that was the last question. I was cheating. There was a very short final question here. It's like you said, like, okay, maybe Better Call Saul was like a way of being inside this beautiful universe that he created for Walter White. And now Better Call Saul is like wrapped up, everything. So are you clean, or do you still you still have the itch to go into, I don't know, a multiverse of Walter White or something like that?
I kind of do, but that is what scares me away from doing it. I am working on something new right now. I haven't shown it to anyone except for Sony, the studio I work for. They're the only people who've seen it. I am excited to try to sell it, hopefully sooner rather than later. It has nothing to do with Breaking Bad, nothing to do with Better Call Saul, and I'm going to miss that universe, as you say. And maybe I'll get to revisit it. Maybe I'll be very lucky and get to revisit it sometime years from now. But I think it feels right to take a break from it because we have the expression one-trick pony. I don't know what the Portuguese equivalent would be. But I don't want to be, in my own mind, I don't want to be a one-trick pony. I want to be able to write. I want to keep working, and I want to write new things. And the risk there is that people will say, I don't like this new thing. Give us more Breaking Bad. Give us more Better Call Saul. And that's a real risk, and that'll make me sad if that happens, and it's very possible that it will. But it's worth the risk. A lot of times things like that are worth the risk. So I say that, and then later on, I'm maybe, let's put something else together real quick. We'll see.
Well, this big fan here, just say, send them coming. Just send them. Whatever, and we're watching and appreciate it. Vince, again, that was a wonderful conversation. Thank you very much. There's some people here admire like crazy. Thank you. And as I said, just keep bringing. We'll be loving. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Zeca. Thank you, everybody. Thanks for watching.